Mainstream entertainment. Ruslan.
If you guys don't know who Scott Adams is a Dilbert cartoon creator who I discovered through Vlad TV, oddly enough. I don't really rock with Vlad TV anymore, but this is one of his most fascinating interviews. Why? Because Scott Adams was one of the few people to predict that Donald Trump would win by a landslide like in 2015, like over a year before the election, and he was right. And why did he predict that Donald Trump was going to win? He predicted he was going to win because he said, and this is really interesting, Scott Adams is a trained hypnotist. He said he's never seen persuasion that strong, the persuasion skill that strong in any public figure like he saw in Donald Trump. So he kind of came out as like this neutral, this was going to happen. He's very persuasive. I think he's been trained in hypnosis. He goes on all this stuff about Donald Trump having this really wild speaking ability and how he persuades. And I kept up with him, and this is actually, you guys have heard me talk about this. I've talked about skill stacking or talent stacking. I discovered the concept from Scott Adams. I've kept up with his content. His Vlad TV interviews are brilliant. I do recommend you check them out. And I was legitimately a fan of his for the longest. And what happened was, I think in his defense of Trump, in his defense of what Trump was about, he kind of got sucked in and like kind of like in the whole, I don't say confirmation bias, but really went deep and kind of became like a Trump apologist. And then like saying all kinds of interesting things. And then today he comes out and he says he personally basically feels betrayed. I'm going to play you guys the clip. I'm going to react to it and get your guys' thoughts. Check this out. So this is Scott Adams. Some of you guys may have seen his face. Again, his Vlad TV interview is brilliant. Vlad TV interview is really good. Check this out.
When the Fine People hoax came up again, I literally stood up from the couch and said, here it is. Here's the moment where Trump just has to say, you know, you based your entire campaign on that lie. I just encourage everybody to look at the transcript, and you'll see that the part that they cut out is the part where I clarified that.
Okay, so he said when the Fine People hoax comes out again, all he had to say, this is referring to the debate with him and Joe Biden, he says all he had to say is, if you look at the transcripts, I never said there was fine people on all sides. He was very sympathetic of Trump in that exchange. You guys remember when that happened in Charlottesville, and he was basically saying, he actually didn't say fine people on all sides. If you go watch the full clip, he wasn't talking about white supremacists or white nationalists or the people who drove into the cars and hurt people. He wasn't talking about those people. That's not what he said. So this was like Scott Adams' narrative, and he's saying when that came up in the debate, and I was actually expecting that too, he was expecting Trump to correct that. Okay, so listen closely. Watch this.
Say, you know, you based your entire campaign on that lie. I just encourage everybody to look at the transcript, and you'll see that the part that they cut out is the part where I clarified that I'm condemning those groups. If he had said that, I would have said, I'm really happy that I've spent so much of my time and my personal credibility, a great deal of money. I would say that my personal financial situation is way worse, because of supporting the president. There's no question about that.
Now, Scott Adams is also one of the few people that I've heard, I never knew this term from. I don't know if anybody else has heard this term, called FU money, earning enough money where you can hear when you can have FU money. So he's saying, hey, because of his support for the president, he's taking an L financially. And so when this comes up, when the Charlottesville hoax, he calls it a hoax, comes up where President Trump allegedly said fine people on both sides. He's like, that's not what he said. All he had to do was say revert back to the transcript. And then he's saying, and watch where he goes with this. Watch where he gets with this.
And I thought it's so obvious what you should say in this situation. And then he just didn't. And I thought to myself, I really feel abused, honestly. I took it personally.
Yo, if my pants is so hurt. He was rocking with Trump for so long. He took it personally. He said that is funny because he's one of the few staples in culture in society who's like repeatedly rocked for this dude. You know what I'm saying? He's repeatedly rocked for this dude. So let's keep watching.
That wasn't politics anymore. That was not politics anymore. That was me personally, and I feel like he screwed me personally. And then I had to sit there stewing in that. And then this white nationalist, or the white supremacist question comes up, and he botched it.
Now, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, he didn't say anything wrong." This is a Trump supporter, Trump voter is saying that he botched it. He's saying he botched it, okay?
It was a layup. It was free money sitting on the fucking table, and he left it there. And he left me on that table too. He left me just exposed. So he lost my vote. He lost my vote. Can he get it back? Yeah, all he'd have to do is fix that. I mean, how hard is it to fix it? Well, apparently it's pretty fucking hard for him because he's taken 3 years since Charlottesville, and he hasn't fucking fixed it yet. Easiest fucking thing he could ever fix. I take it personally. When the Five People hoax...
Listen, this entire thing is hilarious to me because he said the very thing I thought in the moment, which was, bruh, it's a layup. If he didn't know who the Proud Boys were and Chris Wallace tripped him up into the crowd, all he had to do was say, I renounce and condemn white supremacy, any racist organizations, I deny all of them. And he said, well, what? And he could have been like, well, what about the Proud Boys? And he could have been like, I don't know about the Proud Boys. But he tried to say after the fact. This was such an easy layup. And the fact that there are still Trump supporters, that are showing this much cognitive dissonance, that are showing this much confirmation bias to assume that he nailed that answer correctly. He didn't. He botched it. This was easy as ever, especially in a time. And yes, guys, yes. Trump has renounced white supremacy in the past. Look it up. Google the quotes. He has multiple times. But it doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter? Because the country is the most divided it's ever been. There's all kinds of things going on with racial injustice. He needed to say it again and again and again and as many times as it takes. And maybe that's not fair considering he's renounced it before. But that's just what it is. That's where we are at right now. And you got Scott Adams coming up clearly saying, he lost my vote. He said, now he can get my vote back. And Scott Adams will probably vote for Trump. Don't worry about it. But the fact that this is Scott Adams, this is one of the few culturally relevant, embraced figures who really took a L on his reputation coming out so strong, but he didn't care because he had, FU money. This is very fascinating to me. This is very fascinating to, I think, in the grand scheme of politics. I kind of want to hear from you guys, those of you guys that are in the Zoom call, those of you guys that are watching this live, that are in the Zoom call. I'm going to throw up my man Malachi and get some other thoughts on this, because I think this is really, 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 really interesting. Malachi, what do you think, boss? Go ahead and unmute yourself too.
Yeah, I think there should be a reality series called When White People Realize How Racist They Are. And a reel of their reaction videos. And he talked a lot about his personal credibility and how he was deeply personally hurt. It's oh, so you're hurt now. Okay. You're disappointed now in your personal credibility. But with the black and brown communities, the moment that you spoke his name in trumpet mode, you lost our credibility from the jump. You lost credibility with us from the jump. So it's kind of funny.
You're talking about Scott Adams lost credibility from the Trump supporting. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I just find that funny how that he's using that vocabulary now.
Yeah, he's so outraged now, but some people, I'm not saying this is what it is, but I'm saying some people would say that Trump has been dog whistling all along to white supremacists. Yeah. And a lot of folks have just flat out ignored it and repeatedly justified it. And I think that is interesting. Okay, so thank you, Malachi. Does anybody else want to chime in on this before we wrap up the segment? We go back into our Q&A. I would love to hear somebody else's thoughts on this. I think it's really interesting. Again, I don't think this is a deal breaker for Trump, but I think in the scope of people who've been unapologetically supportive, and he came out just kind of objectively initially, hey, I think he's gonna win, but for him to come out and and then kind of I don't want to say get red pilled, but he definitely got sucked into the MAGA vortex and really was riding hard for Trump daily. It was like a daily Periscope. I unsubscribed because it was a daily Periscope from Scott Adams, like explaining away every suspect thing Trump did. And I'm like, listen, I don't know where his personal allegiance is, but man, there's enough smoke here to justify there's some kind of fire in terms of some of the language. I'm gonna go to Pastor Roy if you want to unmute yourself, Pastor, and get your thoughts on it before we wrap up.
Yeah, man, I think the one thing is you have this situation where people have the privilege of finding out when it's convenient, right? So I think like it dawned on him, but we've seen this all year with people coming to the realization of the reality that a lot of people already saw, but for different reasons, right? And it's so clearly illustrated in all of the explanations we had circulating social media on explaining Black Lives Matter, right? Not your house is on fire, but that house is on fire, and the 99 sheep, or all the kids are cut, and who gets a Band-Aid, and like people's lights went on at different times. And so for him, in this moment, it was so clear, right? And you literally said it during the live stream. This is a layup. You were typing it as they asked the question, because that was so simple. So you could so clearly give the answer. So for Scott Adams, it had to be that clear, right? It's no subjectivity to it. Here's a very yes or no answer. And when he didn't give that answer, Scott, it dawned on him then. But that's a privilege for the reality that other people see to not bother you until it dawns on you. Right, and that's what we saw. But I mean, I'm happy when everybody gets a revelation, regardless of when it is, because then at least somebody has a little bit more common sense.
Yeah, and I've said it. Listen, a lot of people, myself included, I think there's some interesting language there. I think there's definitely some. I don't. People get upset when I even use the phrase, but like dog whistling in terms of how he says some of this stuff that I think triggers some of these groups. So then to not outright condemn white supremacy, which was easy. He said it before. Just say it again, dog. Just say it again. Keep it pushing. To not condemn it, and then to be like, Proud Boys stand back and stand by, and they made merch out of it, and that became their new slogan. Like, bruh, like that is just not a good look. And again, I'm not saying that some of you guys are going to get really in the weeds on this. I'm not saying the Proud Boys are a white supremacist group. What I'm saying is they're definitely in some of those far right ecosystems that aren't necessarily helpful. Okay, so
he called them one. So if they're going to be mad about being called the white supremacist group, they should be mad at Trump, because
he was responding to Chris. Yeah, he was responding to the question to Chris Wallace's
question. But Chris Wallace didn't say the name of any groups, right? He said,
I think Joe Biden. Excuse me, Joe Biden said Proud Boys, denounced the Proud Boys, and then Trump tried to play it off like he didn't know who they were. So that's true. Okay, let me go to Eddie, and then we'll wrap up. Go ahead, Eddie. Let's Eddie. Every time I pin you, there you are. Okay, go ahead, Eddie.
Is it good?
What do you think?
Is the beat good?
Yep. Go.
No, I just think that this is like, honestly, this might be kind of a step in the right direction if it's waking people up. Because like for me, like I voted for Trump because I was in the whole thing of like, oh, he's speaking for Christians. And it wasn't until like I started to realize that, wow, he really riles up white supremacist groups and white nationalist groups. You know, so I mean, it's good. It's good that people are that there's a consciousness that's elevating, and people are coming to knowledge that, hey, this isn't good. This isn't what we need as a leader in the country.
Gosh, Eddie, I want to hear so much more from you, but your internet is so bad, bro. Your internet is so bad. Bro, it's all good. I'm gonna move on though. I'm gonna move on. Let me go to my man Prophet Link real quick, and then we'll wrap up this segment and go to our regular Q&A. Prophet Link, what you think, boss?
Praise God. So just, really quick, you touched on it when you were highlighting Amin and KB's post about conspiracy theories and stuff like this. And really what I'm considering now is how, as believers, right, the body of Christ, how are we making more informed decisions? How are we talking about this? How are we using this as an opportunity to minister to people and even just spark thought, right? We have to be critical thinkers. So that's all this shows me. This shows me that people did just surface level homework, or they took a bite out the apple just off of face value, And even if it tasted funny, they was like, you know what, it's all right, because he's gonna chop up the rest of the apple and then bake it into a pie or something like that, and then the pie never comes.
Yeah, that's
So,
a good illustration.
Just the need for critical thought, getting
good.
facts, and just how people are so blinded to truth that, you know, even if you get debunked, right, even if your world is shattered, people still not willing to accept the truth, and that's a hard issue. That's it.
That's good. Yo, those of you guys who are in the live, I want to hear from you guys. Those of you guys that, what do y'all think? I think this Scott Adams thing is an interesting development. I don't think he loses his vote personally, but I think it's interesting. I think the revelation of it is interesting. I was kind of flabbergasted to see it trending on Twitter, so I wanted to chime in on the conversation.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.